what if the most solidifying, rigid lesson we learn in schools or in the course of forced study is that objects is something that must be contended with, and the detail of them and the comprehension of them, or so to speak. However, when we go through school, we learn to contend with these figures on a page. We learn to contend with material. Most kids do like to learn, but the learning part in the didactic courses in school is often not engaged by choice. And when we learn to contend with these, we begin to zoom in more on details and details. That becomes our default way of action and contention. But what if true vision is nothing to be contended with, but yet as we go through life we learn to contend with it when that's not its purpose? So what if we learn to zoom out and not contend? Just like on those lenses, we learn to see the world with the thing in it rather than the thing. When I came across my discovery for my own vision, that instead of looking at the object itself and the gruesomely difficult task of the Bates method of training eye movements, I learned to, how about we train them indirectly and let the vision do what it's going to do. So I will see the space between those two grasses rather than the grass itself. And as I look at this space, my mind begins to comprehend the space. And so when I zoom out, I think about the space. Not necessarily the space between me on my side or the proximal side of the object, but the side on the distal. So the space between the sky and the object, the lay of the land. So I'll see the space of the lay of the land and the thing in it. So when you zoom in, it's as if the eyes go into contention. And then, but if we zoom out and we think about the space rather than the object, and you keep your mind zooming out on the distal end, you don't try to clear it. Don't even chase the clarity. Clarity, it's like a kitten. The more you chase after it, the more it's going to run away from you. But rather, enjoy the space, and the clarity will come. And when you get a brief clarity, you may tendency is to want to contend with it again. Don't, unless you want to learn that type of control and blur, and then zoom out again. So it's really about the zoom in and the zoom out. Zoom in, zoom out. Doing that just like with the lens video that I had posted. So when I stand up and I get the lay of the land on the back space between, I might look at those trees, but what's more important are the spaces and the shape of the spaces. If you zoom in on a space, it's not likely to work. But if you zoom out and you see the space, the whole space, the lay of the land, from the sky to the object rather than the object to the sky. Because if the object is the sky, you will contend with it. And so, even if you were not nearsighted and you were to contend with it, I would predict that if I stood at that point to a retinoscope I would get against motion, which would be myopia relative to where you're looking. That would be the contention. So we look at the space. Look at the spaces between trees, spaces between tree branches. Make sure you're zoomed out. And when I see the forest, I don't. There's a saying: when you see a forest tree, see the forest too. Well, I say, see the space of the forest. Think about the space behind the forest. You become the big person in the little world rather than the little person in the big world. So you want to zoom out. And zoom out not just on the side, your side, but mainly zoom out on the side opposite of regard. So not only when I look at the space between the clouds, I think about the space behind the clouds, because I know there is a space behind those clouds. There are stars. So when you contend with your vision, it will contend with you. However, don't contend with your vision. Your vision will do its thing. So, one of the best things that I think with vision improvement, it's not really the improving of your vision itself, but improving your oneself to the point of less contention.